Welcome to day 2. Today we're going to talk about the second assignment in Unit 1, which is your alter ego avatar, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you need to do in order to complete that. Let's get started. Here's the assignment, alter ego avatar. What you're going to do is you're going to create some sort of a character with shape primitives that when you hold down the mouse it changes in some way. You can read through this if you want. Your character must have 10 different shapes. They don't have to be that you can have 3 circles and 3 rectangles and lines and stuff. It doesn't have to be 10 absolutely different shapes, but you also need 5 different colors. These are the outcomes, so you can read this on your own, and I'll give you the directions, and I will give you some starter code with it. But let's first take a look to see what students have made in the past. These are some of the more advanced projects that some students have done. Let's take a look. Here's one that just has a whole bunch of circles, and you already know how to make circles. You know, this is a bigger circle, here's a smaller circle. In fact, does this have 10 shapes? I'm not even sure. When I hold down the mouse, it changes. Also notice that there's a backstory for all of these. You have to create a sort of a backstory. Here's another one, thirst quenched. Here's another one, here's a kitty. This is Gregory the cat. By day he's normal, by night he wears a dog costume. Here's a little, this is called Benjamin, and this character, we saw this character throughout the class, the rest of the class. And you can see all the code here that the students have written. This is a sturgeon, and then when I click down he fights crime. This here is a speaker. So this is a rectangle with a bunch of different shapes, right? When I hold down there's some more shapes there. This one is a frog, as you can see, and then his eyes just get bigger when I click down on the mouse. Here, this one is very advanced, so this has got a whole lot of shapes. You can take a look and see, and there's rotations and like a lot of code on this one too, right? So when I click down on it, click. I don't know if you can hear this. It's even got a sound associated with it. So this is a very, very advanced project. Here's another one with an eyeball and some lines around it. And oh, the eyeball follows. So this one probably was made with some AI, but I talked to the student and I watched them use it. Here's another one. This one's got all kinds of extra advanced stuff. This was an advanced coder, so he wanted to explore what else he could do. Here is yet another one, Mr. Mailbox. And then at night this is what happens. Not a huge change here, so this would not get as many points as some of the other ones that change a lot. Here's a stick figure. You got to watch out with the stick figures because I think that AIs can make these stick figures. But here's a giant bear or something that's really cute. Let's see what this one does. This is another eyeball, and here's a fish. So you can see, and then here's another one. So you can sort of see what students have made in the past, and let's learn how to do this. So we've seen a bunch of student work, and now what we're going to do is create this program. So we're going to need to learn shape primitives and the coordinate system and a little bit about the color system, and we're going to use the starter code for today. So for the avatar assignment, you're going to need 10 shapes and 5 different colors. Here are all, we're going to start with this code. You can click on this in a minute. Here are all the shape primitives that you can use. So I'm going to click on this and show you, there's the ellipse that we already have learned. There's quad, point, and I'm going to go over these a little bit, but you can see, you can scroll down here, and when you click on them, it will show you how to use the command. You can see a whole bunch of different examples, and then you can go down and you can learn the syntax. So you can click on that if you want. If you are new, we're going to just use the ellipse and the rectangle and the triangle commands, and I've got another video I've got another video recorded we can build a project together with me. So if you click on this, you will see P5JS's shape primitives example too. This has got a whole bunch of shapes in it, and we may talk about this a little bit later. It's got fill commands also, so you can see every single one of these. The first triangle here is listed here, and that fill command is what color it is. Remember, the colors can go If there's one number here, it's a grayscale between 0 and 255, so that's a kind of a lighter gray. And then this rectangle here is listed there. And so these are all the different commands that it takes to make these different shapes. So let's click over here. So shape primitives. As I talked about already before, you guys remember when you were in 8th grade and you learned this thing, this axis system, the x was this way and y was this way, and if you went to the left or up or down, sorry, it was negative. Well, the computer has this sort of axis. So the top left is 0. And like I was showing you before, when we put an ellipse at 100 comma 100, we went over on the x 100. These numbers are different. It's a different scale than the 100 pixel system, right? But this is positive on the x and this is positive on the y. And here's a little sheet that I have that's got some cheat codes for making all of these shape primitives. And so you remember the ellipse, remember we've already made a couple of ellipses and they had an x, y location, and then they had the third and fourth parameters were the width and the height, right? These are some of the other ones that you can have. So look at the triangle's got, looks like it's got 100 different arguments or parameters, but those are just, there's just 6. There's an x and a y for every point on the triangle. Same with the quad here. There's an x and y for every point on the quad. So there's 8 there. And this arc command is kind of hard, so we'll skip that for now. The color system, actually, should we draw? So let's draw. Should we draw a shape using the starter code here? Let's click on the starter code for today, and let's just draw a shape. I'm duplicating it so I don't overwrite it. I remember the ellipse command. It's got 4 parameters, so I'm just going to write ellipse. And make it here inside the draw function, right? So here's the draw function. Ellipse 100 comma 100 comma 100 comma 100. And let's see if I've got an ellipse that happens here. Yeah, cool. So there's a couple of other things that's in this code here. You remember the create canvas has got 400 comma 400 means 400 wide and 400 tall pixels. This background 220 refers to a color. This color is kind of a light gray, right? If I made it like 10, it'd be much darker, right? If I made it closer to 220, or oh, that's too that's too much. Yeah, no, 255 is the highest. If I made it closer to 255, it'd have like a sort of a very light color. And then here's my ellipse. Over here, this is writing the mouse location to the screen. So this is going to help me decide where to place another shape. This also is another function here that only happens when you click the mouse and release it. And what this is going to do is print to the console the mouse X and the mouse Y. You don't totally need to understand how this stuff works. It's just going to be really helpful. So if I decide I want to put another circle down here, I can look at the top here, like I can look at the numbers here. Right down here is right around 270 comma 275. So I know that if I want to put a rectangle here, I know where to put it. But also if I click, watch what happens if I click down here. I want a rectangle here. Look at that. It's printing the mouse X and mouse Y down here. So I've got that down there too. So I can use that rect. 258 comma 243 comma, how big do I want? I want a tiny rectangle maybe here. Right, so there we go. Let's say I want a triangle right here. Like the top, I want a triangle right here. 1, I clicked. 2, I clicked again. 3, I clicked again. Look at that. Those numbers came down here for me. So if I want to put a triangle there, triangle, 270, you know what? I'm going to just copy these. Not going to type them in. They'll be formatted weird, but I'll just fix that. Yeah, so this is a kind of a faster way to be able to place things. There's my triangle. Okay, so you can save that as shapes if you want. Shapes. So that's one way that you're gonna place a bunch. You may want to draw You may want to have like a sheet of paper or something and like draw out what you want your avatar to look like and then sort of decide where you want it placed on the screen. It's kind of a pain in the butt. This is a, assignment one is a little bit kind of a pain because you're going to have to place all these shapes. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the color model in P5JS, the color system. So some commands use a color in the parenthesis. The ellipse command used numbers that were its placement and its width, but there's the color, but for instance, the background command, right, uses a number or a color. So background command, and then there's another command that you need to learn that's called fill. And fill is another command that takes a color. So commands that use color are fill, there's another one called stroke, and there's background. There's other ones too. You can click on this and find out. And so there's different ways of representing color in P5JS. So I'm gonna write a fill command here for these. If I want them all to be red, well, if I want them all to be black, you guys know already, I can put fill 0. Everything underneath there is going to be black shaped now until I have another fill command. Actually, I'm going to put fill right here, fill black also, just because no matter what I have up here, I'm going to want my text to be black. Okay, so let's say I want these to be red though. So I could do 255, 0, 0. That's, remember, RGB, so red values, green values, and blue values if you're into that sort of thing. If you don't understand that, there's also hex. You can use a hex code. I think you have to put it in the quote marks though. And if you know hex code, EA0012, if you know hex representation of colors, you can do that. And then I know that I can click on that. It'll let me do a color picker too. And I can also just write it, but it has to be in the quote marks. I can write green there. Now they're all green. If I want the ellipse to be green, but I want that triangle to be a different color, fill pink. So a fill command will affect everything underneath it will be the same color until you use another fill command. So I've seen AI generated code before that looks like this because the AI doesn't know that you don't need that extra green there. So green, that's this way you minimize your amount of code. And that is your quick start. What your goal should be for today is to sketch out 2 different forms of your avatar using shapes, and maybe you can start placing them in this sample code. You can make 2 different programs if you want. One would be the starter, the on shape, and one might be the off shape. So this one, maybe I'll start with this, and this will be on avatar. And then I can duplicate it and make an off avatar. So this doesn't really look much like an avatar. Doesn't look like a person or anything like that, but if you want more help, you can go to the next video with me and I create some other things. Okay? So thanks for watching. For those of you who have already coded before, this is just writing text on the screen. This is the mouse's X and this is the mouse's Y, and this is literal, that's what's making that comma there. And these are string concatenators, just like in every other programming language. So if I wrote, hello inside here, it would say hello right there, right? So I don't want to have that there. I just want a comma there. And then this function mouse released is its own function here. You don't want it inside another function. You want to have it outside of the draw function. And it's its own function called mouse released, and it happens whenever the mouse gets pressed and released. All right, that's your quick start for today. Please let me know if you have any questions.